is Josiah. I work here at Madcap Coffee Company. I'm involved with the training and education program.
I'm Danny. I'm also with Madcap Coffee, and I run the website.
So we're here at Fulton in our training space, and Danny is going to be brewing a Chemex. This is the 6-cup Chemex.
Awesome.
Are you familiar with the Chemex?
I am. So I have brewed on the Chemex before, but I've never brewed like the Madcap way on a Chemex, so I'm kind of excited to really fine-tune my brewing skills with one.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun time. So we're going to be using our Bolt blend. The components of Bolt shift throughout the year, but they're typically from Latin America, so have a nice chocolate, rich, deep profile to it, which will be great on a Chemex.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. So before we start, let's take a look at the filter.
Okay.
So we're using the square filter.
Okay.
You can get a filter that is circular. They achieve the same thing. They're both folded twice. So something that's important when we're inserting our filter is that you pull 3 layers apart from one and put the 3 layers against the spout side.
And why do you do that?
Yeah, so because there's a spout built into this brewer, we don't want the filter to cave in, which would essentially take away the airflow that's happening from the brew.
Okay.
And create a vacuum, which would stop our brewing process.
Awesome.
So we want to keep that airflow open.
Sweet.
Cool?
Yeah.
So before we move on, if you want, you can pause and take a screenshot right here to see our recipe and follow along at home. Otherwise, we've got our recipe posted in the blog at madcapcoffee.com. All right, so let's rinse the filter first. So yeah, we've got our water at 207 degrees. If you just hold the filter down and give it a nice rinse.
About how much water do I
You just want to make sure all of the water hits the sides of the filter. That's perfect right there. This is sealing the filter against the brewer. Also getting rid of some of the fibers from the filter, that paper flavor that can exist with it. And it preheats our Chemex.
Awesome.
Cool. If you want to just dump that preheat water into a cup.
Any tips on not spilling?
So you can just peel back the filter a little bit, but let the water just go right through the spout. And then we want to tare our scale again.
Okay.
So today we're going to be using 42 grams of Bolt. This is ground at a slightly coarser grind size.
Okay.
Because we're using so much coffee, we don't want our coffee to essentially get choked and stop brewing. So this allows a lot more water to pass through. Awesome. I love that you're pouring right into the bottom of the filter. You want to avoid from pouring the grounds against the walls of the filter.
Perfect.
Awesome. We're all set with that. And then give it a nice shake to level out the coffee bed.
How's that?
Perfect. That looks great.
Awesome.
Cool. Then we'll tare our scale again.
Okay.
So we're gonna break this into 4 different pours.
Okay.
All right? I'll walk you through and tell you when to stop pouring, when to start pouring.
Perfect.
Cool?
Yeah.
So this first pour is gonna be 80 grams.
Okay.
This is the bloom allowing the carbon dioxide to leave the coffee grounds and saturate all of our coffee. And with this pour, I want you to go in spirals or concentric circles.
Okay.
To get all of the coffee grounds saturated.
Perfect. Should I start in the center?
Yeah, start in the center and work your way out. You don't want to pour against the filter though.
Okay.
Just pour on the coffee grounds.
Awesome.
Cool? Awesome. So we're gonna pour up to 80 grams.
Okay. In concentric circles, you said?
Kind of like a spiral. So starting from the center and working your way out, and you're good.
Awesome.
We can put the kettle back.
Perfect.
If you go over a little bit with these pours, we can just accommodate on the next pour. And again, we're always gonna do those concentric circles. If you wanna raise your kettle up a little bit higher, perfect. Now Danny's doing an awesome job getting that flow rate of the water. She's not pouring too much, too heavy, which will agitate the coffee. The kettle is really helping out with that controlled flow rate.
Is it like normal for it to be like lighter in the center and then like darker on the edges?
Yeah, exactly. So what we're seeing here is a lot of those bubbles are still releasing a lot of carbon dioxide from the grounds, which is impacting kind of the color of the top of our coffee bed.
Awesome, that's really cool.
So as we pour this next one, we'll hit closer to the outer rim of the coffee.
Without like touching the...
Without touching the filter, exactly. So you're catching on.
Awesome.
All right, so in 5 seconds, we're gonna pour 200 grams.
That'll be 480?
Exactly. And let's bring the kettle up again, nice. So by breaking this pouring technique into 3 big pours of 200 grams, we're maintaining contact with our water and our ground coffee. You're good right there, perfect. You never want your coffee to be fully exposed to the air. We want to keep water contact with the ground coffee throughout the whole brew.
What does that do?
So that continues the extraction process
sweet.
without pausing in between pours. So if you're noticing that your water's going too fast, it's probably because your grinds are too coarse.
Okay.
So then we're gonna wait until the 3-minute mark
Okay.
to do our final pour of 200 grams,
Okay.
bringing us to 680 grams.
Awesome. And still stay away from the very edges of the paper for this one?
We wanna stay pretty clear from the edge. It's
Okay.
okay if you wash a little bit of that coffee into the coffee bed, but we wanna avoid from pouring directly onto the filter.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Now this recipe that we're using is a great recipe for the two of us to share a full cup of coffee. But if we have another friend or two who wants to share, we could all share 4 smaller cups of coffee. And if you're wanting to brew more coffee than that, you certainly can increase your dose of coffee as long as you increase your water dose accordingly. So now we're in that drawdown phase. Our total brew time of the Chemex is going to be somewhere between 4 and 6 minutes.
Okay.
So Chemex filters tend to be a little bit thicker to allow that structure to be maintained, which means that our brew times can be a little bit longer.
Okay.
And that's totally fine with the Chemex.
And I have had my Chemexes when I'm brewing stop pouring down.
Yeah.
What's up with that, and how do I stop it?
So what's probably happening is your filter might be collapsing into that spout.
Okay.
Essentially choking the brew process and
Okay.
stopping it, creating a vacuum seal. So one way you can alleviate that is simply by grabbing these 2 edges of the filter. This technique is called burping, and lifting it up and allowing some airflow to get back in. It alleviates that seal a little bit from the spout.
Awesome. And is that looking pretty
It's
as
looking
it should?
great. This is looking
Awesome.
great. And then ultimately, when we taste it, if it tastes like it's a little bit sour, it's probably under extracted.
Okay.
And we might need to fine our grinds a little bit.
Awesome.
If it tastes a little bitter, we're probably too fine and we need to coarsen our grind
Okay.
a little bit.
Awesome.
So again, with this recipe, we are on a little bit coarser of a grind size than we would with a single pour over.
Okay.
Because we're using 42 grams of coffee, it's
So it's
a
got
decent
more
amount of
weight.
coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna let this drip all the way through.
Okay.
We're around that 5:20 mark. You can go ahead and stop the time by hitting that. Perfect. And then we want to remove the filter without squeezing the grounds. We don't want to squeeze the rest of the coffee out.
Squeegee.
Exactly. So you can just put it right into this cup. Lovely. Perfect. And then with this, if you want to give it a nice swirl to integrate the full brew. Perfect.
That just mixes it all together throughout
It
the
integrates
process.
everything, yeah, so we're not getting layers to our brew.
Sweet.
And then you can share into the 2 cups. Typically, I like to wait a couple minutes before I try the coffee, because right now it's going to be pretty hot.
It's a little steamy.
Yeah, a little steamy, and have some perceived bitterness.
Yeah. Let's give
So
it a go.
let's give it a shot. Cheers.
Cheers.